Hello and welcome to the Worn and Wound podcast. My name is Blake Bettner, and today I'm joined by Zach Kazan. Hey, Zach, how are you?
Hey, Blake, I'm doing well.
Awesome. And we are also delighted to be joined by Mr. Steve Hallock. Steve, welcome to the Worn and Wound podcast. Thanks for making time for us.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
So we will give you a chance to introduce yourself. If for any readers that aren't familiar with you, maybe give us a brief rundown who you are, your background in the industry, and what you're up to these days.
Sure. Okay. My name's Steve Hallock. I'm a longtime watch dude. I got into sort of high-end watches in the very early 2000s. I just kind of wanted to buy myself a nice watch, which to me I thought was $3,000 to $5,000 or something. It was going to be like my watch forever. And but I had this idea that probably this is kind of my mindset in the whole world, is that whatever everybody thinks is great is probably not the great thing. So it was I bet Rolexes are kind of for suckers, and that the real guys actually know what the cool thing. So that's how I found the online forums and stuff that were a really big deal at the time, and went super kind of down the rabbit hole into eventually pretty big time horology. I was in finance at the time, and in the mid 2000s, so I kind of got into especially this world of kind of crazy independent watchmaking. And at the time, it was very, very, very small. Now, in retrospect, you can kind of look back at the history of all this stuff and realize it was the sort of beginning of a new era of watchmaking. Kind of at the time, there was just a few crazy guys doing a few crazy things, but they tended to be kind of young. I was very young at the time. This whole world of people like us and Hodinkee readers and stuff like that didn't really exist. It was kind of like me at the time, 25 or something, and then a bunch of sort of 60 or 70-year-old doctors who were into Patek Philippe and Vacheron and maybe Omega. Mm-hmm. So I really hit it off with the kind of independent creators as well. They would come to town, and I would go to a dinner with them or something, and we became friends. And so one of those was Max Buser, who was just leaving Harry Winston and starting MB&F. And at some point we were having a coffee, and he was telling me what his plan was, but that he had no idea what to do in the United States and Mexico, North America. And I said, well, I'll just do it for you. Basically, I'll just be Max here. The Swiss and the American sensibilities don't know really well. So I didn't know what I was doing, but neither did he. Yeah. And so I ended up starting MB&F North America at the beginning of MB&F, and kind of being Max in this area, and setting up everything that is the backbone of MB&F now. There's 5 people doing that job or something now. And that got me into the industry professionally, which I never wanted to be, but that was a cool thing. And all the while I was sort of buying and selling my own personal watches on the side, just because, there's something I wanted, I'd buy it. I couldn't afford to have everything, so I'd sell one, buy another one.
Yeah.
And eventually that just sort of became my business. So now I have TikToking, and I buy and sell just sort of crazy independent watches, just the stuff that I really love. And I also make YouTube videos on them, because at some point I realized that I get to see sort of the stuff in the world, and most people never get to see these. And I just want to, each time one's in my hand, make a quick video so people can have some experience beyond just the brand catalog photos and stuff like that. Yeah. So that's my biz.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I love that. And it's like, you get on YouTube and a guy's giving a walkthrough of an F40 or something like that, or McLaren F1 or something that you only know in pictures, but then they kind of show you under the hood and in the door jams and stuff that you never think to look at. You're doing the same thing with these exotic watches, right? You're showing people how they work, or what it looks like on the wrist. And
yeah, totally.
You put your own straps on there. Zach and I were just nerding out this morning over that Orwork EMC, where you literally cranking the watch right? And then you hit the button on the side, and it tells you like it's how well it's keeping time and what its amplitude is. And that's the kind of stuff that I don't think people like. I don't know, realize is out there, but it's so much fun once you see it in action.
Yeah, totally. It's really the most fun and interesting part of the watch world, I think. And for a long time, I resisted any sort of like technological upgrades in my videos. I wanted to just shoot them with an iPhone because I think sometimes the problem is they get really like high production, and then you actually kind of lose the feeling of what the thing is like in the real world. You see these brand shots and they're actually real photos most of the time, but they look computer generated because they hire professionals who control for every shadow and the lighting's just perfect. And all of a sudden you don't really get a sense of what it's like as a watch. So there was something cool about just like flipping on an iPhone, taking a very raw, I do them all in one take, just kind of off the top of my head. I try not to get super technical because it bores most people and it bores me. But it was always just sort of like, let me just show this watch for what it is, the object that it is, and try to get as close to it in the real world as I can. And sometimes that meant not using the sort of state-of-the-art equipment. I've upgraded a little bit now because the world's just moved on so much that it's ridiculous to use an iPhone. But I still try to keep it pretty raw.
Yeah, right on. No, we appreciate that, and it's so much fun to get an inside look at some of these watches. Before we go any further, let's maybe do a wrist check here. Zach Kazan, let's start with you.
Yeah, so today I'm wearing a vintage JLC Memovox. It's a E872 Memovox from about 1970 or so.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm not following Steve. So I'll go next. I've got on my flowery shirt today. Today, that as we record this, is actually my birthday. So I thought I'd get
happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Thanks. Yeah, that's our producer Josh, by the way, in studio, Brooklyn podcast, Brooklyn Recording Studios. So I put on my flower shirts. I've got my Daytona on. This is a reference 116519 LN. With the silver dial and the filled subdial. So that's my status today. Steve Hallock, I was just telling you before we started, Max Booster had on an LM Perpetual Evo, and that was probably the most exotic. It definitely was the most exotic wrist check we've ever had on the podcast. What are you rocking today?
I brought out some cool stuff today, actually, in addition to what's on my wrist. But what's on my wrist, I will show you. We'll go to the wrist cam here.
Yeah, show us. Whoa, okay.
Oh, fantastic.
All right. So this is, sorry, the shadow, the light's killing me in this crystal, but this is an Urwerk 210 Royal Hawk, which is actually black platinum, which is a funny thing to do.
Wow.
And I have it on this aftermarket camo strap with the red stitching, and it's, really brings out these sort of red numbers and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a pretty sharp watch. I kind of think it beats the Evo Perpetual as like exoticness, but it's pretty close.
Yeah,
I think I brought out a couple other. Yeah, it's pretty exotic. I brought out a couple other cool things from the safe we can maybe get to at some point if you guys want. That I definitely think can sort of smash it. One is actually one of Mac's creations anyway, but I think a little more exotic than an Evo.
Yeah, I love this that Urwerk. And it's crazy to see. And again, just to get back to the cars, like when you see a picture of an exotic car and you're like, oh, it looks nice. But when you actually see one like on the road next to other cars and like in the context of the real world, you're almost like shocked at how low to the ground it is and how wide it is and that kind of stuff. Right. And so seeing it like on a wrist, what's that watch like to wear?
Well, it's sort of like asking a porn star for sex advice or something. I'm like completely a weird guy to ask about watches. I wear this stuff every day.
And we think about, look, we talk about watches like it's 40 millimeters and it's like 12 millimeters thick, and like how's this going to feel walking around from day to day? It's going to, you don't do that vibe, right? Like you've got to look, this is a crazy ass watch, and it's I like you kind of, that goes out the window, right? At some point.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I've worn stuff like this every day for 15 years or something now. So I have a pretty skinny wrist. So I'm sensitive to how things actually fit. But overall, I'm definitely not phased by breaking the round circle. The 210 actually is one of my favorite all-time watches to wear. I had a steel one that I wore like nonstop, and then I sold it when I bought something else and like immediately regretted it. So I just bought this back. This one's in my personal collection, and it just fits really, it fits super well. It's like actually pretty, it's pretty thin, as you can see, and it's sort of like the exact size of my wrist, so it works really well. And just the complication is super cool. When this big hand here, I'll run it for a second so you guys can see.
Yeah, so if you're not familiar with how it works, kind of satellite watches
So check this out.
Yeah.
When this hits 60 here, this huge hand that's actually like a big carriage is going to fly back and pick up this next cube.
Yeah, I love that.
Very cool.
Sick. And then one really cool thing, which works for right now, you can actually set it backwards. So you can go here, it drops the cube, you pick up the 10 cube.
Oh, wow.
And go back here. It's 10:24 here in LA right now. So we'll reset it and I'm
good to
back
go.
in action.
Look at that. I love that.
So yeah.
It's so easy to
Pretty
read
sick.
too. And this is so they built this is Martin Fry and Felix Baumgartner, and they built this module right for this. That's how that works. This is kind of like Planetary Gears underneath there.
Yeah, exactly. You can actually, I mean, that's basically what you see here. All of this exposed stuff is the module itself that is doing all this. So, you know, these are kind of big springs, this wheel. You can actually see inside these cubes here are the mechanisms that turn them as it's going. And so this whole thing is exposed. And you can kind of figure it out yourself. This watch is also cool. This is a power reserve. And then this is something I've never seen on a watch before. I think this is the only watch that has it. It's actually for people into math or calculus, it's basically like a first derivative of the power reserve. It's how much wind you're putting into it over the last bit of time or something like that. So it's like, as you're moving a lot, or if you manually wind it or whatever, this will go green to show you that it's actually in the process of being wound. I've never seen something like that. It's got a few other also.
Yeah.
This what I like about stuff like this is that people don't know what it is. So this is a really expensive watch, but nobody really knows that. So I like that because my friends aren't really into watches or even like luxury stuff or whatever. So I can just sort of wear cool stuff, and it's not like wearing a big, heavy gold Cuban with a $sign in diamonds or something around your neck or whatever. It's a pretty stealth way to enjoy some really crazy stuff.
Yeah. So I know that you are out in LA, and there's lots of crazy people wearing crazy things out there. Have you ever been like stopped out in public or at a restaurant or something from somebody who's like, "What the hell is that?"
Pretty much never. It almost never happens. I mean, the times that anybody comments on a watch are more if I wear like a Royal Oak or something like that. I've had people sort of comment like that, but I really can't think of a single time that anybody's commented on one of these like actual indie things just out in the wild. Really, nobody knows it. This is one thing that I learned when I was working with MB&F, and I was obviously more people know now. The universe is much bigger now, but still, it's like, people would say to me, "Oh, what do you do?" I'd explain. They say, "Oh, I'm a watch guy. I subscribed to Watch Time or whatever the big magazines at the time were or whatever." And I'll know because I do the ad buys or something. Like we would have bought, like maybe we were on the cover the month before, and I'll be like, "Yeah, MB&F." They're like, "Oh no, I haven't heard of that one, but I do love Omega or what, like people just have no idea of this area. It's already, being a watch guy is a niche, and being in the high end is a niche. And then being into this stuff is like a tiny, tiny, tiny sliver of a sliver of a sliver of a sliver. So I certainly, I definitely don't get offended that nobody knows. And I kind of relish that fact.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's really cool. And I know you've got kind of a penchant for watches that are like really out there. But you're also kind of into the high end independent scene. But where do you fall on, you know, watches like the Haldemans and the kind of more traditional kind of high end watches in round cases that are svelte, you know, versus like an HM4 or something that's like really crazy out there like that. And I know that that's kind of what, you know, seeing these things in the flesh is really an experience. You know, I guess, like, do you prefer to kind of be walking around with something like that or 202, like compared to like a watch like the Haldeman or something kind of more traditional?
Well, I mean, there's, you know, I like to sort of, I talk a lot on my YouTube channel. I'll do like, I got into doing a podcast for a while too. And now I just sort of do them as YouTube videos. And that's where I get into a little bit more of the like philosophical underpinnings of collecting stuff. And I, as a dealer and also a watch enthusiast and somebody who talks about them and in some ways influences people, I like to kind of delineate between the things I think are good and the things I think are, well, I don't even focus on the not as good. I just try to elevate the things I think are really good. And I would put all of that stuff in there, you know, like Haldeman's incredible, or Roger Smith, a Kari Voutilainen, you know, you could go on and on with Philippe Dufour, obviously, all these amazing indie creators. So then within there, whether you want to get a time, you know, I brought this out today. Here, I'll show you. This is a Gronfeld Principia. It's a time-only piece from the Gronfeld brothers, who are these Dutch guys, and a very simple watch, steel, a lacquer dial, but they make this incredible stainless steel bridged movement. And this one is automatic, and it's just awesome. The craftsmanship's awesome. The people are super nice. It's sort of like everything you want in a real luxury item. So whether you choose something like this or like an Urwerk, then that's just like personal taste. And I try to not get as involved in that for people. For myself, you know, I don't even wear a watch a lot of the time. I'm a pretty casual guy. I barely leave my house, especially since COVID. So when I do, a lot of times I like to just put on something fun. But I recognize that people have totally different lifestyles and tastes and things like that. And I just want them to be conscious of the stuff that's really good, and how, you know, I kind of feel like it's if you're going to spend this much money on something that is totally useless, basically, that there's kind of a moral obligation. It sounds a little crazy to support the things that we actually like want in the world and we want more of. And to me, I want people like the Gronfeld brothers and Felix and Martin and whomever else, you know, of this little world. I want them making creative things and doing well and supporting people and keeping all these craftsmen and artisans going. So that's kind of how I justify the whole thing.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And that's but kind of hits the nail ahead of why I wanted to have you on here. And I think that the kind of usual morning round reader is maybe not in the position like anybody to be buying like 6-figure, you know, crazy watches, but seeing what is being done in this space, I think really kind of heightens at least for me, like my appreciation of the hobby as a whole. That's why we had Max on, and like hearing him talk about like what's going on in that space and just how passionate he is in building what he wants to see out there. You know, I love that. And I think that applies all the way down, you know, and there's some really fun and interesting things happening too, you know, obviously that's well under, you know, 6-figure watches. You referenced a watch in that video that I was watching earlier of this like black carbon $1,500 watch you'd gotten. It looks a little like a Richard Mille. Did you get it? Did you get it? Has it come in?
I haven't gotten it yet. Okay. I keep bugging them to ship it to me. I saw this thing, like it kept coming up on my Instagram. I forget the name of the guys, but I don't even want to necessarily shout them out yet until I see what it is.
Yeah.
But they made this watch out of carbon. It's a tourbillon. It's like I think it was like $3 or something like that. And at some point I kept seeing it and it actually like looked really cool. And for people who are familiar with Richard Mille, like it's not like the quality is that amazing. Like they're not, I brought out a Grubel 4C here that I can show you later. That's like an insane piece of every bit of savoir-faire, know-how, artisanal ability that's ever been in the watch industry is like poured into this. That's not what Richard Mille is about. I love Richard Mille anyway, but you look at it and it's not like, they didn't sit there hand finishing it all the time. The cases are basically made of plastics. And so I saw this thing. I'm like, I got to get one of these. I got to see what it is. Yeah. I'll do a review on it when it comes in on my channel. And if it's cool, I'll wear the hell out of it. If I don't think it's that cool, I'll just give it away to somebody or something like that. But I'm definitely not like a price snob. If something's cool, it's cool. And that's another reason why I think this sort of higher end stuff is justified as, of course, most people are never going to be able to, nor should they necessarily buy a $500,000 watch. But the innovations that happen in that area do tend to drive general taste, and those push other people to make things better, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you referenced it. We can't not see it now. The Grubel 4C.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's take a look at it.
Let me see. Hold on. I got some fingerprints on it to clear off before
I think this is a watch that I've seen on your Instagram in recent weeks. And you're at Steve Hallock, right?
At Steve Hallock. I was going to change it to TikTok, at TikToking. But then at some point, like I had made so many videos where at the beginning I was like, follow me at Steve Hallock on Instagram. I can't change them. So I'm like, I'll just sit. It's fine. Whatever. Okay, let's go deep into this guy. This is the double tourbillon technique. So this they have inside is a double tourbillon, which what they mean by that is not two separate balances, but it's actually a tourbillon inside of a tourbillon. So on the perpendicular plane, basically, you have the whole thing's rotating in 4 minutes. And then at a 30-degree angle to that, you have, let me see if I can get up here and focus. Okay. So you can see it's at a 30-degree angle to the perpendicular. You have another rotation that's happening once every minute. And if I let's give it some juice and check it out.
While he's doing that, I'm just going to say that we are starting to load some videos of these podcasts onto our YouTube channel.
What a perfect excuse to get on the ball with the video stuff.
Yeah.
This is, perfect timing.
So go over to the Worn and Wound YouTube channel and you'll see some of this stuff. All right,
okay,
Steve,
cool.
Let's see. What do you got here?
So for the people just on audio, I'll try not to make it too video heavy, but you've got so that's the way the tourbillon works. And then you can see Grubel 4C, they have 100 employees, I think, and they make like 100 pieces a year. So they're like the highest of the high finishing and like just total complete insanity of everything. And then the technique is the watch where they like completely opened it up and really showed the most of their kind of three-dimensional architecture. So it's a pretty bonkers watch. When people see Grubel 4, a little bit like if you guys remember when HD TV first came out and you saw it and it was just like, whoa, like that is shocking. You just had never seen anything like it. Grubel's a little bit like that, the way the finishing is just so crisp. And not only is it the ability of the finishing, but they actually design it so that they often have, a polished part next to a sandblasted part next to something else. And everything's so perfect that it just makes the whole thing jump out in like a level of definition that you've never seen. One of the other things that I really love being sort of crazy watches on really casual straps, because I hate black croc straps in particular. I don't like alligator straps at all, but especially like black is just the worst. So they actually made a Velcro strap for a sporty version that they did. They made this in blue ceramic, and they made this blue Velcro strap for it. So I got one of the straps, Grubel 4C, you can see there. But then this
Very cool.
on just, then it's a watch you can wear anywhere at any time. Still nobody knows what it is, but it's like just insanely awesome. And this is, retail. This is a $580,000 watch.
Yeah. I love it on that strap too, and I think that's what initially. I mean, you see these things kind of floating around Instagram, but yours immediately stood out for that very reason, because I knew you'd put it on some crazy strap like that, which I love. That's like one of my favorite things. So you have a lot of custom-made straps for the watches that you buy, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'll go custom, but my favorite thing to do is look for like OEM stuff from maybe a different model that will then fit. So like that's an OEM Grubel strap that works on this. Or like I had recently a JLC minute repeater that just happened to take the same size strap as, I don't know JLC models that much, but I think it's like a Memovox or something like it. No, a master compressor. So the put cool, it's sort of like a Kevlar Velcro strap, and it fit the minute repeater. So I got the strap and I put the Velcro-y strap onto a titanium minute repeater that they made, and it just made it so cool. You can see pictures of that on my Instagram also, but that's my kind of favorite thing to do. If I can't find that, then yeah, I'll go find something aftermarket and make a cool color or something like that.
Yeah. Well, one thing I wanted to ask you, what, like, you kind of mentioned your first kind of getting into this hobby, but do you remember like seeing a certain watch for the first time and just being like so blown away by it that you knew that like this is like, I'm done for, this has sucked me in? Like, and what was that watch?
Yeah, it was a Richard Mille. It was a Richard Mille RM2, and it was in 2003 or so. And at the time, it was a pre-owned dealer that I know and am still very close with. But at the time, he had it in inventory, and it was $100,000. And I had literally never heard of a $100,000 watch. Like prices were way lower back then. Like a Patek Philippe 3970, which was current production at the time, and was a chronograph perpetual calendar from Patek Philippe, was like $40,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's been a huge inflation in watch pricing, basically. So at the time, $100,000 was like mind blowing, and the only thing I knew that was like that was like diamonds, some sort of diamond encrusted something. So I went to do some other deal with him, I think to like buy a Blancpain or something. One of my, at the time, I was trading in and out of $5,000 or $6,000 watches, and I was like, hey, while you're here, I see that you have this $100,000 possible that I could just like see what that is. Yeah. He was like, yeah, sure. He brought it out, and I was just floored. I mean, like literally like the mind blow emoji.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it was so cool. It was just like, it was incredibly cool as an object. The design was amazing. And then I put it on my wrist, and it was like ultra comfortable, and it looked awesome. And it was just like, I couldn't believe that I would wear it. I would wear it every day if I had that thing. I knew that I just like loved it as an object. And I just didn't know that world existed, or that was a possibility. And I was, at that point, I was just like, I have to have one of these. Mm-hmm. But it was ridiculous to even think of at the time. But then like a year and a half later, I got one. It's amazing. Like when you shift your priorities, especially as a young guy, before I had a wife, before I had kids, whatever, if you got like extra dough, you may as well put it into a watch. Sure. So, I had my like whole net worth on my wrist at some point, but it was, but it was awesome. And that was, I'll always love Richard Mille for that.
Sure. For me, I think it was a watch that you were showing me in Basel, and it was the HM4. Before it had come out, I think it came out in like the fall one year, and we were at Basel in springtime, obviously. And I think you showed me, and like trying to wrap my head around that watch was, I didn't it's just like the first I'd ever seen anything like this. And I remember Ben saying something beforehand, like, "Oh, you're gonna get a kick out of these guys," and then just seeing the watches that they laid out on the table. Then you brought out that HM4, and I was just like, "Oh my god, like what is going on here? I need to know more."
That was an amazing release. For people who don't know the HM4, it's like a watch that's like two jet engines around like a central balance wheel. You can look it up, and it is like nothing else anybody had ever seen at the time. It doesn't really even look like a watch. I have actually an HM9 with me right over here that I'll show you in a minute.
Yeah.
That's kind of they made a couple other models. The HM4 is sort of its spiritual and precedent, I guess that would be it.
Yeah.
But anyway, the really cool thing with this is like the cool thing with MB&F was the idea of making even the movements into like structural architectural components. So it was to like sort of deconstruct old school horology and put the pieces together in cool new ways. And so when we were showing journalists the HM4 for the first time, we actually had an uncased movement. I don't know if you remember that, but we had the HM4 movement that we were showing alongside of it. And it also has the sort of two, it's the shape of the case, basically. And just nobody had seen anything like that before.
Yeah.
And so that was awesome. Here, let me pull, I don't like teasing things without giving the people what they want. So this is an HM9.
There it is.
Yeah.
And sort of similar idea. This one's cool because it has once connected with a central differential. So if you give it juice here, they'll fire up and you get like a ton of just playful movement. It's a driver's watch, so you can read it there.
Yeah.
But here you can actually, so through these windows, you can see the movement. This is the movement and it goes through the entire watch. It's the shape of the watch. So same thing with the HM4, it was like that. And so we showed the uncased movement so people could understand that it wasn't just a matter of like taking a watch movement and putting it in a crazy case. It was actually like a whole new way of viewing the mechanics of horology.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's just incredible to see that. Zach wrote about that actually for the site, and it did gangbusters. That was like one of our most popular
sapphire cased version. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the sapphire one's insane, totally insane. I haven't seen one myself. I have a customer who bought one, and I'm like dying to see it one day.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So you get in a lot of watches. Like, have you ever gotten one in on a deal and you're like, I can't get rid of this. This is going into the personal stash.
Yeah, that's what happens. That's the dangerous
that's your whole
part.
life.
That's why they say
I feel
don't
like
get high on your own
hazard
supply.
of the job. Yeah.
Yeah, it's dangerous. And it's I would say the one that is the least likely to ever leave my collection. I always say that, but like I'm a watch dealer at heart, and like so then people knock me because like a few years later, like I sold the thing because somebody made me an offer I can't refuse, and I'm like, look,
everything has a price.
My parents aren't rich. I don't have a trust fund. I got to live my life. So if you buy a watch for X and somebody offers you 10X at some point, you got to think about it. But the one that would be the least likely to leave at this point is actually an Urwerk. It's the prototype Urwerk 103 in steel. I actually worked with Stephen Pulverant to do a piece for it on Hodinkee that they wrote last year. So you can check it out. But it's like, to me, it's like maybe the most important piece in all of contemporary horology. Like it launched all of this stuff basically. And it's like the actual watch. You never find that. Prototypes don't really exist in this world. And so it did because of very weird circumstances in this case. And then I got the actual watch. And so it's just, it's like a piece of history. And it also is the thing that kind of launched the entire universe that has now become my life. So that would be a hard one to get rid of.
Yeah.
Don't sell that one. That's I remember reading that story. There's just a really impressive story behind that watch.
Yeah, cool. It's awesome. It's got like, for you guys should check it out. I actually have a YouTube video on it too. If you search like Urwerk prototype or something, it'll come up. But like they were putting this together. They had to get it ready for Basel, and they didn't like the color of one of the hands for the power reserve, and so they used Felix's brother's girlfriend was like in the other room painting her nails this like cool red. And so they used her nail polish to paint the hand right before the Basel show, like, you know, like about to go on stage with their new creation where the entire future of the brand. And now we've come to find the entire future of like contemporary horology was they're like painting a polish. So it's just a really amazing historical artifact. It honestly belongs in a museum. Maybe one day that's where it'll be.
Yeah. No, it's very cool. Nice job by our friend Steven there over at Hodinky. So if you're listening to this and this all sounds great and you think you have yourself one of these watches, but you don't exactly have the funds, but you've got a bunch of Bitcoin laying around, you can now put that to good use by buying some watches. You accept Bitcoin now. What's going on with this? You made a new account as well. TikTok Crypto, I think it's called.
I've accepted Bitcoin forever, or I've said that I would. Nobody really ever pays in it because I think it's pretty early still. And if you like, for the people who understand Bitcoin, they don't want to spend their Bitcoin.
Sure.
And if you don't understand it, you're just not into it now. I've done a little bit of business in it, but not very much.
Send us out with something strong. What else you got around you that you can show us?
Well, I mean, I showed you 4 or 5 watches already, right? I don't think I have. I got this. Hold on. This is cool. This is kind of cool. You won't expect this, right? Okay. Let's see.
Look at that.
Okay. So this is just a guy. I wish I had his name. I'd shout him out. Hold on. Let me find it because this is pretty cool. These are not expensive. I was shocked. So somebody on Twitter, like not even a watch person, posted this thing. And I was like, man, that's sick. And let me see if I can find it. Hold on. This guy, he's in somewhere in Europe, maybe Belgium. Here it is. Okay. So his name is Peter Szucsy, Szucsy. He has a website that is steampunk.gallery.
Oh, okay.
And I have no affiliation or anything, right? Maybe he's in Hungary or something with that. Anyway, he like goes around to flea markets and stuff and buys these old like watch parts and then makes these crazy sculptures with them. So I got to be careful. I'm on this. It's sharp. Like these are like
looks like
needles.
You could hurt yourself with that.
And yeah, so it's like 2 pocket watches there. This one has a Fusayan chain.
Wow.
You can see there.
Look at that.
Which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
For those who don't know what it is, check out my YouTube playing it. But yeah, and then it's all these parts, and then it's this cool spider. I haven't figured out exactly where to put it yet, so it's just sitting on my desk. But that's and again, this was like I was shocked. I saw the picture, I was like, "Ooh, that's really cool. Let me check it out." And then it was like it's like $800 or something like that. So I was like, I gotta get it and check out what it is. That's the coolest other thing that I have sitting on my desk at the moment.
I love it.
That's very cool.
Yeah, it's been awesome. So finally, one last question. I just wanted to ask about like what kind of maybe on the micro brand space, like what if you're paying attention to any brands like Ming or Fair, or just brands like that. Like is there anybody that you see?
I go back really far with Ming. He and I are friends, and he's a cool guy. We actually worked on a piece years ago that I made with him and with Oxen Jr. for my son. So I have a unique piece that we all designed together.
Wow.
And I like Ming, the brand a lot. I don't have one, and I actually haven't even seen one in person, but they seem really cool. The travel time in particular, I think, is awesome, although I know that one's a little bit more expensive. I actually bought yesterday or 2 days ago one of these. Is it Louis Erard?
Oh, yeah, the Louis Erard, Alan Silverstein. Yeah. With
Alan Silverstein, yeah. So they did these really cool. I don't know if they're still available on the site at all, but they did 3 pieces. I love it. It's pretty cool. It was like this neat case with kind of like cantilevered lugs. So I'm interested to see that when it comes.
Yeah.
Max Buser just made a kind of a new little brand called Mad or whatever, and it's like a 2,000 euro or Swiss franc or so crazy watch with a spinning rotor and things on the side. So I think there's cool stuff happening in that space, and there's probably more to come as production chains get easier to tap into. I kind of dig it, but usually from afar. I dip in every now and then. It's still money. Yeah. It's still a couple $1,000s, which is money to me. Mm-hmm. If I'm not going to wear it, I don't generally buy things just for no reason.
Okay. So you can call yourself like a collector then.
I guess in the way of like that work, for example, is like more of a collector thing. It's like I don't wear it a ton, and it's special because of its history, and so it really is kind of collected. Mm-hmm. But in general, I'm more of an enthusiast. I like stuff because I like it and I like to wear it, and so the Ming travel time, yes, is awesome. It's really cool, but am I going to reach for it? Other than some of the things I already have, probably not. Yeah. So I'd still rather not burn, that one's even like 10 or 12 grand, but even if it's three or five, it's still money. I got to pay a mortgage. I'd rather pay my mortgage. And so, stuff like that. But I have weird stuff too. Like I have some vintage stuff. I'm not an expert in it. I just like, I have a Breitling 806 AOPA that AOPA, is that it? That I wear a lot from the 50s. Super cool watch. I have weird penchant for gold, the wood dialed Rolex Presidents.
Okay.
And I have like a bunch of those variants. They got a little bit more popular now, but they used to be just like, $5,000 or something. And I have like a couple different models, and I've got the quartz one and the automatic. And so I've got stuff. I've got a Submariner that I wear a bunch. Okay. So I'm not always in crazy stuff, but that's a long answer to a short question of micro brands. There's cool stuff. There's cool people in the space. Yeah. Find the cool people and support them, and that goes for all of my stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So if you are in need of a Grubel 4C or work, or I think I saw a cool Debatoon on your site as well, be sure to check out. It's TickTocking, TickTocking.com. Is that correct?
It is. No affiliation with TikTok. I started my site before. Okay. I'm still hoping that they write me like a $10 million check for my domain name at some point. So if you're listening, Chinese government, I'm happy to receive that at any point.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, Steve, it's been a huge pleasure getting to talk to you today and getting to see some of the amazing machines that you brought out. Thank you so much for joining us.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Really nice talking with you. Thanks for having me on. That was fun.
All right. Until next time. Thanks for listening.